A single father never expected that one act of kindness would cost him his job, his reputation, and nearly his daughter's trust. Yet by the time the sun set on the most unforgettable day of his life, the woman everyone feared as a ruthless executive would stand before hundreds of employees with tears in her eyes, admitting a truth no one had ever imagined. That morning changed 2 broken lives forever. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances still have the power to transform people, please take a moment to like this video, leave a thoughtful comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel to become part of our community that believes compassion can still change the world. Graham Mercer had spent the last 6 years raising his 9-year-old daughter, Elsie, alone after losing his wife to a sudden illness. Every sunrise began the same way. Before most people had even poured their first cup of coffee, Graham was already preparing breakfast, braiding Elsie's hair as neatly as he could despite never imagining he would someday learn how, packing her school lunch with handwritten notes, and making sure she never walked out the front door without hearing that someone loved her more than anything in the world. His own dreams had quietly been placed on a shelf, replaced by overtime shifts, unpaid bills, and the constant determination to make sure his daughter never felt the emptiness he carried inside. Graham worked as a maintenance supervisor for one of the largest commercial property companies in the city. It was honest work that demanded long hours and little recognition. The company's chief executive, Meredith Holloway, had earned a reputation that intimidated everyone. Employees whispered that she remembered every mistake but rarely acknowledged success. She moved through the building with perfect confidence, expensive suits, and an expression that seemed untouched by emotion. Most workers believed she cared only about numbers, profits, and deadlines. Few people knew that Meredith's carefully built walls hid years of unbearable loneliness. After dedicating decades to building her company, she had quietly lost nearly every meaningful relationship in her life. Her marriage had collapsed years earlier. Her parents had both passed away without reconciliation after family disagreements that now haunted her. Success had brought wealth, but it had never taught her how to heal. One bright Saturday afternoon, the company hosted a charity appreciation luncheon in the city park for employees and their families. Graham attended with Elsie because free food and children's activities were luxuries he rarely declined. Meredith also attended because appearances demanded it. Throughout the afternoon she smiled politely for photographs, shook hands with donors, and listened to speeches that praised her leadership. Yet behind every smile her exhaustion grew heavier. As the event wound down beneath the warm afternoon sun, Meredith suddenly became dizzy. Earlier that day she had accepted several celebratory drinks on an empty stomach while skipping lunch between meetings. Combined with stress and lack of sleep, the alcohol affected her far more than she expected. Embarrassed and barely steady, she insisted she was fine even though it became painfully obvious she was not. Most executives quietly slipped away, unwilling to become involved. Some employees pretended not to notice. Graham could have done the same. Instead, remembering how he hoped strangers would someday help Elsie if she ever needed kindness, he gently offered assistance without judgment. Rather than leaving Meredith alone in an unsafe condition, Graham contacted emergency assistance and, once medical staff confirmed she was simply intoxicated and dehydrated rather than seriously ill, helped arrange safe transportation to her nearby residence, ensuring she was settled safely before leaving. He never crossed professional boundaries or expected anything in return. Before walking away, he simply left a bottle of water, a light meal prepared by the housekeeper at his request, and a handwritten note reminding her to drink water and rest because tomorrow always feels easier than today. He returned home before sunset in time to help Elsie finish her science project. By evening he had nearly forgotten the entire incident. The following morning Graham arrived at work expecting another ordinary day. Instead, anxious whispers echoed through every hallway. Someone had seen him helping Meredith the previous afternoon. Rumors spread wildly, twisting a simple act of compassion into imaginary stories of favoritism and ambition. Graham felt dozens of suspicious eyes following him as he pushed his maintenance cart across the building. Just before noon, an assistant informed him that Meredith wanted to see him immediately. Every step toward the executive floor felt heavier than the last. Graham worried that helping her might somehow have violated company policy. Losing his job would mean losing the apartment where Elsie had finally begun to feel safe. When he entered Meredith's office, she stood beside the large windows overlooking the city. Her face looked pale, but completely clear. There was no trace of denial or embarrassment. She did not pretend she had forgotten. Instead, she thanked him. She explained that she remembered everything. She remembered refusing help. She remembered him treating her with dignity instead of gossip. She remembered the note beside the bottle of water. Most of all, she remembered that he had quietly left without asking for recognition. For several long moments neither of them spoke. Then Meredith admitted something she had never shared with any employee. She confessed that for years she had believed kindness always came with hidden motives. Every relationship in her life had eventually become transactional. Graham's simple decision to help someone who had never been particularly warm toward him challenged everything she believed about people. Graham simply answered that his daughter deserved to grow up believing compassion mattered, even when nobody was watching. Those words stayed with Meredith long after Graham returned to work. Over the following weeks she began walking through departments she had not personally visited in years. Instead of asking only about productivity, she asked employees about their families, their concerns, and their ideas. People initially assumed it was another corporate strategy, but gradually they realized something genuine had changed. Meredith discovered employees struggling with medical bills, parents unable to afford childcare, veterans silently battling trauma, and workers juggling multiple jobs just to survive. She had spent years studying financial reports while never truly seeing the human beings behind them. One afternoon she unexpectedly visited the maintenance workshop where Graham repaired equipment. She noticed photographs of Elsie carefully taped inside his locker alongside her school drawings. There were no luxury vacations, expensive hobbies, or glamorous achievements. Every picture captured ordinary moments filled with extraordinary love. Meredith later learned from human resources that Graham had repeatedly declined promotions requiring constant travel because he refused to sacrifice time with his daughter. While others chased titles, Graham measured success by whether Elsie smiled at dinner each evening. For the first time in years Meredith questioned her own definition of achievement. Change never comes without resistance. Several senior executives disliked Meredith's growing concern for employees. They argued that increased family benefits and wellness programs would reduce profits. One ambitious vice president even suggested Graham was manipulating Meredith through sympathy. Instead of defending himself, Graham quietly continued repairing buildings, arriving early each morning and leaving in time to pick up Elsie after school. Eventually Meredith uncovered something far more disturbing than office gossip. A group of executives had secretly denied employee assistance requests while awarding themselves generous bonuses. Funds intended for staff support had quietly disappeared into executive incentives. The discovery devastated her. She realized she had trusted spreadsheets instead of people for far too long. Meredith immediately launched an internal investigation. Several executives resigned before its conclusion. Others were dismissed after financial misconduct was confirmed. The company announced transparent employee support programs, expanded family leave, educational assistance, and emergency hardship funds. Reporters praised Meredith's leadership, but she privately knew none of it would have happened without one maintenance supervisor who chose compassion over convenience. Months later the company gathered for its annual daytime employee celebration held outdoors beneath clear blue skies. Hundreds of workers attended with their families. No one expected Meredith to abandon her prepared corporate speech. She stepped away from the podium, folded the papers, and spoke from her heart. She admitted that despite years of professional success, she had forgotten how to recognize genuine character. She confessed that the person who reminded her was not an executive, consultant, or investor. It was a single father whose greatest achievement was raising an extraordinary daughter while quietly treating everyone with dignity. The crowd turned toward Graham. Embarrassed, he looked down. Elsie squeezed his hand proudly. Meredith presented Graham with an award recognizing integrity, compassion, and servant leadership. Along with it came a promotion to Director of Facilities, flexible working hours that allowed him to remain present for Elsie, and a scholarship established in his late wife's memory to support children of single parents pursuing education. There was hardly a dry eye among the employees. Yet the most meaningful moment happened afterward. While children played nearby, Meredith sat beside Elsie beneath a large oak tree. She thanked the little girl for unknowingly teaching her father what truly mattered every single day. Elsie smiled and answered with the simple honesty only children possess, explaining that her dad always said helping people never makes your life smaller, it makes your heart bigger. Those words lingered in Meredith's mind long after the applause ended. She began rebuilding broken relationships with distant relatives she had avoided for years. Some welcomed her immediately. Others needed time. But for the first time she understood that healing rarely begins with grand gestures. It begins with one honest step, one apology, one act of courage, and one decision to stop pretending yesterday cannot be changed. Graham returned home that afternoon with Elsie, carrying the award tucked carefully under one arm. They celebrated not with expensive dinners or extravagant gifts but with homemade pancakes, laughter, and gratitude around their small kitchen table. The apartment had not become larger. The furniture remained old. Bills still needed paying. Yet the home felt richer than many mansions because it overflowed with love, hope, and peace. As sunlight poured through the kitchen window, Graham realized that true success had never been about impressing powerful people. It had always been about remaining the kind of person his daughter could admire when nobody else was watching. Before we finish, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment telling us about a time when one small act of kindness changed someone's life or restored your faith in people. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember, the strongest people are not always those with the most power or wealth. They are often the ones who quietly choose compassion when the world gives them every reason not to. One kind decision may seem ordinary in the moment, but it can become the beginning of someone else's second chance, and sometimes, your own.